Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Meagan Dutka. I hope everyone is feeling much better than I am today. Firstly, I would like to sincerely apologize that I could not be physically present for today's event. I was very much looking forward to meeting the faces behind this wonderful initiative and to express my sincerest gratitude for the award that I was selected for. Unfortunately, a case of COVID is keeping me at home, so a recording is the best I can offer today. Just to give you a little bit of background information about me, I'm in my fourth year of studies at the University of Winnipeg, completing a double major in human rights and conflict resolution studies. I've been taking my degree at a slow and steady pace while I work part-time at the Indigenous Women's Healing Center, so I'm hoping to graduate sometime next year. I have always had a curiosity about what goes on outside of the confines of my own home and backyard. I learned from a very young age that many people here and across the globe are not as fortunate as I am in many different ways. I'm sure I told this story in my application essay for the Susan A. Thompson Award, but I think it's such a critical piece of who I am, so I'm going to tell it again. My grandparents have had a significant influence on who I have become as a global citizen. I have learned so much from them about the world, both in terms of its cruelties and its beauty. When I was quite young, maybe 6 or 7, my grandma and I were walking through a shopping mall. I had stopped in front of a Gap to point out an article of clothing that had piqued my interest, when my grandma put her hand on my shoulder and asked me if I knew about slave labor. I hadn't, so she proceeded to explain to me that the clothing made in stores like Gap are often tailored by people, including children, in faraway places who work long hours with little or no pay in awful conditions. I had pictured a child my age sewing together the sweater that had caught my eye, hungry and surely wishing they could go to school or go outside and play with their friends, but instead, this was their reality. In the naivety of my childhood, it was difficult to fathom that human beings could treat other human beings this way. In that moment, though, my heart bled for the victims of slave labor, and I made a promise to myself to never step foot in a Gap store and support their unethical practices. And to this day, I still haven't. Now, of course, over time, I have come to realize that the issue of slave labor is not limited to Gap. But this moment sparked in me an intense concern for others, particularly those whom the society I live in could not see or perhaps choose not to. It is teaching moments like these from my grandparents that I think have really fueled my passion to pursue an education and a career in the field of human rights and peace building. Over the course of my life, particularly in the last 4 years, I've developed a keen interest in the African continent. I'm compelled by the diversity of languages, cultures, and traditions across the continent, while I'm equally as troubled by the region's long history of colonialism and economic exploitation, which has left many countries in a state of desperation and conflict. I actually just returned from Zambia at the end of April, where I spent 3 months completing a practicum placement with a nonprofit NGO doing grassroots peace-building work. This experience has only strengthened my desire to contribute to conflict prevention and peace-building in Africa through research and policy analysis. I hope to one day obtain a PhD in peace and conflict studies. Now, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to take a moment before I conclude to thank all of those who are involved with the University of Winnipeg Foundation and who played a role in me receiving this award. This includes volunteers, donors, chairs, and of course, Susan Thompson. I'm immensely grateful for the generous donation of your time, hard work, and resources, and I truly feel so honored to have been selected for this award. Ms. Thompson's legacy of leadership inspires me and empowers me to further develop my own leadership skills so that I can make a positive impact in my global community. Another thing that I learned from my grandparents is the value of education. They have always advocated for their grandchildren to obtain a higher education and taught us that education is a privilege, one that many people across the world do not have access to. Despite the fact that I myself grew up in a single-parent home in relative poverty, I've always known that I would go to university. Even if I couldn't afford to pay my own way through, I live in a country where student loans are accessible. I feel so grateful for the opportunity to study here at the University of Winnipeg. Frankly, though, I often feel weighed down by the stress of student debt. This award has been incredible to receive. It allows me to pay for the remainder of my studies at the University of Winnipeg without adding more financial burden onto my final year of studies so that I can focus on the next step, graduate studies. Once again, I just want to thank you so much for your time and your generosity. I truly hope that I'll get the opportunity to meet some of you in future. For now, enjoy the event, take good care, and be well. Bye.